Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is our second webinar in a three-part series focused on the keys to success for project management. Today's session is focusing on connecting our financial data. Now, we were preparing for this session. We couldn't help but be reminded of a study that was done just a little while ago. And in that study, some construction leaders were surveyed, and half of them said that when they have software that needs to integrate, over half of them said that their employees, the most expensive resource, are the people who manually enter information between those systems. So it's not really that surprising, though, when you think about it, because the construction industry and what happens day to day on projects and in the office and in the field can be very confusing. Information's flowing between the back office, between the project managers, the field staff, other folks involved with the project. Usually we're thinking about phone calls and emails. So today's session is focusing on the financial area and how we can eliminate that. My name is George Molnar. I'm an ERP construction consultant here at Trimble. I started back in 2006, and I've always been working side by side with our customers, either helping them implement or evaluate our solutions. Got two great co-hosts today, Hunter Hayden and Alex Pratt.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Hunter Hayden.
Thank you.
I've been here for about a year and a half, and I spent 5-ish years in construction before that. But yeah, with that said, I mean, let's get some love in the attendee chat here. Let us know where you're listening in from.
Great, thanks, Hunter. I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Alex Pratt. Good to be here with you all again. I'm on our MEP side of things, so MEP specialist, and I'll actually be taking us through a similar presentation next week, where we'll focus on how ProjectSight has tools in our MEP bundle to help a subcontractor with those workflows. So, looking forward to assisting you today, George.
Yeah, I look forward to it too, Alex. Thanks for being here. Thank you as well, Hunter. I think we've got a great session lined up for everyone, and thanks so much for responding in the chat there about where you're calling in from. Folks are across the continent here. Today's focus is going to be broken down into 3 different parts. We will be reviewing how budgets are created and some of the key setup options when we think about a connected project management and accounting system. We'll also be reviewing how buyout can happen. So some of the key workflows there, from importing from an estimate through issuing those commitments directly through the PM tool. And finally, we'll be reviewing what happens when things change. So change orders and how those are processed and how they impact the budget. Now, as we go through today, giving you a little bit of homework. So on the right-hand side, I want you to think about some of these things to look for, like, how easy is this product to use? What's the user interface look like? What impact would that have on your business? We're also going to see as we go through how ProjectSight has some very powerful controls. These role-based permissions allow you to control how information flows from operations into accounting and who can do what and see what. You're also going to see some very robust connected workflows for the field. So it's a little bit of a teaser for Alex later on when we start thinking about how models are connected into the overall Trimble Construction One suite. Now, Hunter, we've kind of set the stage here. We've broken down what we're going to focus on, but there are a couple housekeeping items. I wonder if you might take us through those. So today, on screen, where you're sitting at right now, you can see the chat. Thank you, folks, for chiming in there. As well, you're able to click on our bios. There's also a variety of websites and other resources that are available for you. Please click on those. Please download them. And if you do ask a question, we're going to try our best to pause right now live in the session and address it. I'm not going to wait till the end. So get your questions in when they come to mind so we can answer them in context. So I'll repeat that. Get your question in early so we can answer them in context of where we are in the overall presentation. Alex, Hunter, anything I missed there from a general how we want to interact today?
Nope, all good. And sorry about that. I was answering your question. I was just on mute. So we all make mistakes,
I
right?
didn't know if we lost connection or what happened there, Hunter. I was like, okay, I guess I'll try my best here. So, Alex, you mentioned you've got a session coming up next week. Can you tell us a little more about it?
That's right. Yeah, thanks, George. Next week, we'll be talking about ProjectSight again, but relating that more to the subcontractor level and specifically on the MEP side. So we have a unique set of tools that come along with ProjectSight for those MEP contractors in the way of estimating and procurement that we'll definitely want to take a look at.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited for that. So, folks, if you weren't aware, Viewpoint has a very strong online network. That network allows you to interact with and connect with other customers and users, even in your local areas. And recently, brand new rooms in there set up and designed for the project management space were created. So if you're not aware or if you're not a member, please join the award-winning Viewpoint network. That community is a great way to interface with others in your local area or even just users in general. So please get out there. Now, everything you're going to see today is part of Trimble Construction One. It is our connected construction management suite. You're going to see how projects can be created in either the operations tool or in the ERP, and that information is connected. So as we start the buyout process, as we have change orders, our budgets are impacted, and both sides are on the same page. So we want to streamline that workflow. So I'm going to start to step into the software now. I'm going to talk through some of these budget setup options. And while we go, here's that agenda again. So if any questions come up, please do ask them, and we'll do our best to answer them. All right. You ready? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Suspense is building, working. Hopefully you're seeing actually a website. Where I'm starting here is out on the web. It's the data exchange website. We could get this these links in the chat for you. It's dataexchange.trimble.com. And this is a great spot to see any connections with the Trimble Construction One platform. Now, today's focus is clearly on ProjectSight and some of our core ERPs, Viewpoint Vista being one here that we're starting with, and then also Viewpoint Spectrum. What I love about these workflow diagrams is they break down really what are the connection points, and it tells a little bit of information about how they work. And if after today you'd like to share some of this content with others at your organization, you can always head right out to this location and see this detail, as well as some demo videos for some of these. Now, when we think about projects, we think about how jobs are set up, there are several main approaches. What the connection will do is it allows you to decide what's best for your organization. Now, this is critical because some contractors, some folks have a very defined process that might start right from their estimating solution. I have a variety of customers that are in the heavy civil industry, use a connected estimating solution that kicks out a very detailed estimate along with subcontracts to buy out, potentially even a bill of materials. That information goes right into their core ERP of Vista or Spectrum. And that sets the stage to issue subcontracts, to issue purchase orders directly from that single process. So if you're the type of organization that has that process from import through buyout connected in with your estimate, like those civil contractors I mentioned, you may want the jobs to be set up in your core ERP, subcontracts to be issued there, and that information to flow into the project management system, into ProjectSight. So you don't have to change your business model with these connections. You can pick the directional flow that makes the most sense. So if you're someone in project accounting, you're someone in operations, you're someone in accounting or in the back office, you can use the right system at the right time, and your jobs are set up accurately and efficiently. So these diagrams are a great way to review that. So Hunter, Alex, I've been talking a bit here, just showing some some slides. Have there been any comments or questions at this point?
Nope, nothing from our end.
All right, cool. Guys, if you have any questions, comments, please do shout them out. Get them in there so we can talk about them or address them early. If you like what you see, use those emojis, and we'll be sure to do more of those things. So job setup options can come in through the ERP initially, or you can literally set your jobs up out in the project management suite. So both of these areas, both for Spectrum, both for Vista, support those types of capabilities. So great options to see those. Now, I'm going to move away from those slides, and I'm going to go into one key project here. So this particular project happens to be connected with the Vista ERP. If you're a Spectrum customer or considering Spectrum for your organization, we can happily show you how those connections function and what information flows through between them. Now, as a project manager, you've seen before, hopefully if you've seen ProjectSight with Hunter's presentation, that along the left-hand side, everything that relates to my project, I can have access to right from this one screen. So he took us through in the last session, you could access a drawing, you could pin an RFI on it, you can do the markups, really all of the project correspondence, document control can happen here directly through ProjectSight. But also connected in with that is a fully built out budget and cost management solution. This allows for this budget to be set up here or in the ERP, right, depending on your particular workflow. It also allows for commitments, meaning subcontracts, purchase orders to be issued here, or for those to be created in here from the integration. They originate in the ERP based on another workflow. And you'll see more on that when we connect next week with Alex, who's going to take us through supplier exchange, which is great for any MEP contractor who is looking for local distributor pricing from their suppliers to help them generate purchase orders. So all of these connections here, the budget, change order requests, contracts, contract invoices, all of that detail relates directly to what's happening on my financials for this project. So in my example, I'm going to start by going into the budget, and we're going to talk about how the budget gets set up, how the structure in ProjectSight allows me to get a clear picture and immediate insight if there's any changes to commitments or changes to any of these numbers through the pending change process. So as I get into this screen, first we'll talk about the layout, and then we'll go through some of the key workflows. Alex, Hunter, anything to add or questions that might have come in at this point?
Yeah, I got one that maybe the group could benefit from. So the question was, we used the PM module in Vista for POs and subcontract ledgers. Does that have any effect on the process, or is it going to be the same doing those processes in the individual modules?
Yeah, so great question. Over asked that. So if your organization is leveraging the Vista project management module to issue subcontracts and POs, and that process works, it doesn't have to be changed. Any subcontract or commitment that's issued in the Vista ERP will be visible here. And on screen, if you'll notice as I go through these columns here, as I get past the budget columns, and I'll put a blue box around it, you can see I've got some commitments, total commitments. I'll scroll my mouse over, you can see the rest of them, but those commitments could be originated from those executed subcontracts or POs that come right out of Vista's PM module. But from that point forward, reorganization, typically customers are leveraging ProjectSight to start managing the change process. Meaning I create pending change orders in here. Those pending change orders can be seen in Vista to support the cost at completion, right? Cost projections process. But but the pending change order process would flow here through ProjectSight. And again, that's your choice as an organization, how much of that you want to leverage. So great question there, Hunter. So folks, on screen, as I look at the project budget, A few things to point out for you. Up at the top here, you'll notice I've got an original budget, I've got a projected budget, forecasted, and then a variance over on the right. So that's my totals for this whole project. One of the great tools within ProjectSight is just by going into the configuration settings, you can change what columns are up there, and you can change how that formula works. And the system's friendly enough to tell you, how are we actually doing that? Well, it's the budget minus cost in this case. Some organizations think about it the other way, depending on how you think about a savings or not on your project. So good stuff there, makes it nice and easy to train on. The other thing you'll notice here on screen is I've got my own view set up. I'm calling it my budget by cost type. So as I come into this screen, the columns that I see, as well as the groupings for those columns, are all specific to the view that I'm using. And that view could be specific to me, or it could be something that maybe is our standard that Hunter created. All my project managers or project engineers see their budgets the same way. Now, on the left-hand side, you'll notice here I'm using some terminology standard in ProjectSight, calling it a budget code. That budget code, if you're an ERP, Vista, or Spectrum customer, is a combination of a phase and a cost type. Now, as you set up this connection, you have some decisions you can make there around how to leverage ProjectSight's full budget code capabilities, meaning you can segment out different areas of a phase and a cost type to different levels for subtotaling here if you want. Most organizations will take the phase and the cost type and they'll put it together just like you're seeing here. That's the default. Makes it nice and easy for us to see that information and do some groupings and totals. So if I were to summarize all of these, you'll see there's my breakdown of my job lumped together by cost type. And if I want to drill into any of these areas, I can just expand that. And now I see the individual budget codes or line items there. All right. So as I look
Hey,
at
George,
this,
we got another good question, I think. So Craig is asking, can project projections be done in ProjectSight, or will that still have to be done in the Vista PM module?
Yeah, Greg, great question. So again, the choice is up to you. But right now, today, most customers would continue to do their projections in the ERP because that's where all of my detailed actual cost is right now. It's also where I still have visibility to pending change orders, even if they originated out here on ProjectSight. The reason for that is right now today, the connection right now today isn't updating cost projections from ProjectSight. So it's a good observation and a good question. Right now today, most folks are continuing to use the PM cost projections tool or job costs, depending on what they're using.
And we got another one here, George, from Kimmy. Do we use the same phase codes in Spectrum to the budget codes in ProjectSight?
Yeah, another one. Yeah, absolutely. So they are mapped. So they typically are exactly the same. But what happens here on screen is we do allow and we do combine those together to this budget code. There are options there on to if you would like more detail in ProjectSight or to break out different segments of your phase code, like if you use the major or minor categories. But the default is exactly like you're seeing. For my plumbing phase here, the 22 and all the zeros, that's my core phase code, where the 3 is my cost type. So good question. All right. So we've talked about some of the views. We've talked about some of the directionality between the ERP and ProjectSight. Some of the great features in here. Hopefully you're seeing right on screen, hey, approved changes, pending revisions, the projected budget. Those are all getting totaled up to give me that projected budget column. So as you can imagine, if I come in here and I drill down, and I'm going to drill down into this plumbing phase, you'll notice it takes me into the backup behind those numbers. And this is one of the things that folks who use the ProjectSight budget screen really, really like. So I can see the totals at the top. And then as I go down in this view, I can see how they were impacted. So notice there's a contract, 600-3, line item 1. If I scroll over a little bit, I can see, oh, yep, that contract it created my total commitment for a little over $1 million there. If I expand that out, if you're dealing with units or hours, right on the right here as I scroll over, you'll be able to see how that impacts my commitments all the way down to my forecast. The same thing applies when we think about change orders. Here's a PCO item that has been approved. I can see it showing in the approved column. And just like you would expect, anywhere you see color, you can click. And when you click, you get more detail. In this case, when I click on that PCO, it takes me right into the document. So what's fantastic about this connection, and remember here I'm highlighting the Vista connection, up at the top is I get some feedback. I get a banner that says what the actual subcontract number and company is back in the Vista ERP. So there's no confusion. I don't have to go run a report. I don't have to go log in. I know that with this feedback that this pending change order after it's been approved here is set up in the ERP. Now it got there because someone at my company with the appropriate permissions was able to review it and send it into Vista. So if you're a Vista customer today and you understand what that PM interface program does, that type of review process where you're overseeing or you're looking at these approved changes, but then you're in charge of interfacing them over to job cost, that type of approval process would effectively happen here in ProjectSight if you're connecting these change orders together. And then that feedback keeps your accounting folks and your operations folks on the same page. All right, Hunter, Alex,
George,
how are we doing here? I know we've been talking for a while now.
We've got one related to what you're talking about there as far as information flow. Is it real time or is there sort of an automatic sync interval that takes place?
Yeah. So there is an automatic sync that runs on a schedule. So that schedule runs and it will update information. So if things are created back in the ERP, and your directionality, your flow is to show it here in ProjectSight, and great, it'll show up based on that schedule that runs. I believe it's about every hour. So the longest you would wait is for how long that hour goes by, depending on where it starts. But for other things, you click the icon to send it, and it's going to go right away. We want to make sure we've got that clarity between the systems. You don't want things lost in transit. The other thing you'll know about the connection as well is there's full history and audit detail available of those connections. So if ever we need to find out who made a change or what occurred, there's great visibility into that detail. Now, some other just quick key comments here as we look at some of the solutions or capabilities within ProjectSight. Hunter highlighted a few of these things last time where we're taking photos, we're attaching drawings to RFIs and the like. That same capability is available through the project financials area. As we look at this potential change order that has since been approved, you'll notice, hey, I can get into the change order request that was included on. I can see the history all the way down to the RFI. If there's drawings linked in here, or even designs and models linked, you'll be able to see those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the back icon. I'm going to go back to this budget because we've talked about how the budgets are set up between the ERP, how they're visible here for the project manager. They can slice and dice that budget how they want. How commitments can originate in the ERP, or you can issue commitments here within ProjectSight, and they'll show up on the budget screen just like we're showing here. Talked a little bit about change order visibility. All the items on that PCO are associated with budget codes, just like you're seeing here. I'm on this plumbing phase. That's why that 17 grand was showing. But also, throughout ProjectSight, that linking is available so you see the history, including if you've got any models or designs. So, Alex, I know you came out of the industry. I know you're planning on going through some pretty cool stuff next week that are specific to MEP contractors. But have you seen any examples of where models are linked to a budget like this?
Yeah, absolutely, Hunter. And this is something we'll dig a little bit more into next week as well. But within Connect, you can see we've got our model view linked here. and we can actually set up a budget code as a property and associate the budget code and the content in the model to a status. And so that can really help give us a clear picture and a direct link between the two, help explain where we're at with the project.
Fantastic. Yeah. So as a project manager, I don't even have to leave my project management solution to be able to see those status updates and the progress information. That's fantastic. Sounds like a time saver to me.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to go back out of the budget here. Did we get any other comments or questions? And I'd ask, in chat, if folks are seeing the value of being able to see the impact of change orders on their budget and some of the configurability here of this budget screen. So any comments or questions coming in through chat or QA?
Kimmy's got a good question. Can ProjectSight take into consideration for owner direct pay items? Is that, Kimmy, is that like a prime change order, an owner change order? If so, the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, here on screen, we've looked through the budget. We've talked about some of the capabilities. Just a couple other key points for you all to consider. As I scroll over to the right, you're seeing those commitments columns build out. And then way on the far right, there's even the ability to add in, my number. So if I need to make an adjustment to a projected cost that's built up based on those changes, I could do that. So as I make that adjustment, it's going to override the forecasted cost, which, if you remember, that's my number up above. Now, this is really a worksheet for me as a project manager. For those folks that are using Vista or Spectrum ERP, likely project managers are still going to go in there and do their forecast for the time being. This is a great daily worksheet. I can see the impact of budget. When I'm ready, I can send this off or go use the other tool. So, and for folks that aren't using ERP, it's a fantastic place for a project manager to make their notes, keep their numbers together. And this can be leveraged to build out an actual projected or forecast plan for either billings or cost, and to show some nice S-curves of how that builds out, particularly on those longer duration jobs. So Hunter, Alex, I think that's most of what I had planned to cover today from a demonstration standpoint. Are there any other key points or things you want to make sure we highlight before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm good on my side. Did we address whether the data is synced in real time between Vista and ProjectSight? I might have missed that. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely talked about it. So there's an update schedule that happens. And then for specific things like when I do the approval or, a contract, I create it. Specifically, those will trigger to go right away.
There was another question here, George, on purchase orders. When you create purchase orders.
Now. Oh, sorry, what was that?
There was another question that came in regarding purchase orders. When you create them in the system, can you print them out for the vendor or sub to sign? And then is there flexibility in the report formatting system?
Yeah, you bet. And that's a good point. I didn't show any of that detail, but any of the documentation, like a subcontract or a purchase order or change request, those are all based on templates that you can modify to fit whatever your company's letterhead or layout looks like. So absolutely, they can be modified. You can email them direct from the system, get a PDF out to any of those recipients, no problem. That's right.
And then, so George, a little more color on Kimmy's question about the owner direct pay items. They're not change orders. It's when the owner pays for materials, but it's still part of your contract, even though you won't get that portion of the pay. And then she added that the owner direct pay items are materials that the owner is letting the sub use their tax exempt form to purchase, but they will still need to be part of that contract. Have you ever run into that workflow before, George?
Yeah, on a couple of occasions, and usually we're talking about how to isolate those dollars, whether through special phases or cost codes associated with the right schedule of value items. So that's typically done through a configuration, how you set up the job to make sure you're isolating those right and accounting for them in the right way. Because you want to make sure we're not accounting for it incorrectly. So a good one to review in depth. All right. We'll stay on here for a minute if we're connecting with any of the other chats or questions through the chat tool here. If we didn't get to your question, we will respond to you individually. Someone from the team will. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget, next week, same time, going through some amazing MEP workflows around purchasing models as well with Alex. So we'll hope to see you then. Thank you.